So I discovered a lot of what I knew was working for me when I was hanging out talking to Mark Chironna. We sit on the phone, and I started hearing this clicking in the background, and I thought, what the heck's he doing? He was taking notes while we were talking. Then I realized that, well, if he's smarter than me, I should be taking notes. So we both started taking notes, because we would talk to each other, but the Lord was saying stuff through us that got greater clarity because of who we were talking to. This is a funny thing. If you've got gold in here, you don't always have to be talking to somebody that knows more than you. You just got to be talking to the person God's anointed you to have a conversation with. And you get clarity while you're talking to them. I've had some people that say, I don't want to waste your time, I don't waste your time. And I'm going, you're not wasting my time because the questions they're asking me are forcing me to get a revelation on the answer. I didn't know it till I said it. What's really freaky is when it happens with your own family. So I wanted you to meet my son, who's one of my conversationalists. Son, come on up here. This is Carl. He's been working behind the scenes here. There we are.
Please. Yes, please. Thank you all for clapping at me. Really appreciate that.
So here's how it happened, because I started thinking, the Lord said, start to go to Eden. Remember what I was teaching? You go to your employees and you go to your family, because your future is really in the relationships you got. Everybody repeat this with me. Your relationships.
Your relationships.
How's your harvest?
How's your harvest?
That's why you want to pay attention to the people that come and go in your life. And so I started talking to him about, I don't know what it was, in Aruba. What was the reason we were talking? We were talking about maybe doing a podcast, or what was it?
Yeah, we were talking about which time? This past year?
Yeah, this past year particularly, it's coming to me.
Yeah, we were talking about doing a podcast on the creative secrets to successful leaders or something like that. Something along those lines.
And I think it was actually last year. I think we started last year.
That was on Flow last year.
On Flow, that was it. So last year, anyway, so I thought, well, I know my son's got a call. He does great. I always see him coaching, counseling his buddies and all that stuff. I said, you could always spot where the gifts are. But I said to him, if you were to share something at a seminar, what would it be? And he starts talking about his Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Who Mark Chironna.
Yeah, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is a psychologist. He's also known as the godfather of flow, which is the psychology of optimal human experience. Most professional athletes talk about getting into their zone. Kanye West also talks about getting into his zone. That's a different generational thing. But when you're in the zone known as flow, you feel fully alive. You feel one with everything. You lose all sense of time. You, in a sense, become timeless, and you're basically walking in your full potential in that moment. Instead of acting at 100%, you're actually acting beyond 100%. So that's what the idea behind flow is.
And you're operating, and can you have flow with a team?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, you're more likely to experience flow if you're in a team. Jazz musicians are actually the highest. They have the highest likelihood of entering into flow because of the way that the notes and the tablature works, and how it's a constant stream of consciousness that you're working with other people on all at the same time. So that's one of the reasons why I love music so much. It's because it kind of gets me there.
So when people are in flow, what do you think? How could they tap that into the future? How can you make that flow moment work for the future?
I would argue that if you're in a flow moment, you are actually working towards the future, because even though you might not feel like it's a flow experience, due to the nature of the experience, you actually are better for it after the fact. So anytime that you enter into a flow experience, say for me, playing music with my band or whatever, afterwards, upon reflection, I realized that I was playing scales that I don't even know. And we were learning new songs together in the moment that later on would end up on an EP or an LP or whatever. So just by doing the action that leads to flow, you are in fact bettering yourself and becoming more aligned with who you can be.
So this is very important for all of you. So when you leave, you will have had moments of aha, moments of connection, and then, of course, sometimes people, and this happens particularly in the 7M Gym with our youth, they're the most honest about it. I haven't heard it from adults, but I'm sure it happens. It's like, well, when I go back, I'm all alone. It's like when I'm here, I'm in a room full of possibility, but when I go back to your periscope at night, it's just me out there in the wilderness. So somehow we have to think in terms of how to sustain the connections that allow people to access and materialize what they've got. And that really is so let's go into the model of how to prepare for a counterattack before the attack happens. How to prepare for the backlash. So I can guarantee if God's got you moving in the direction of your anointing, something comes up almost all the time to try to stop or reverse the flow. Why does the team call timeout when the other team is in flow? To interrupt the flow. So the enemy's watching you now. And if you break the trance and you say, I'm on purpose going to do something different, and you go ahead and do it, the way to get you back stuck in the trance that you were in when you got here is to interrupt the flow. So I asked Carl to take a moment to talk about the 3 stages of the mountain. Because at the top of the mountain, you want to have preeminence, you want to have visibility, you want to have impact, you want to have resources. Funny thing is, you don't start with the top. You have to start with the bottom.
Start at the bottom, now we here.
So explain it the 3 for us, though.
Okay, so everyone currently is being, right? This is our current state of being, is just being alive. Now, what we do is shaped by and large by who we are. And then what we have is based on what we do. And what we do, again, is based on what we are. So in order to have what we want, we have to do something that we haven't done before, which means that we have to be somebody that we've never been before. So that's what this pyramid right here represents, at least based on my understanding of the be, do, and have. And even Dr. Mark Chironna had that in one of his books. I can't remember the title of it, unfortunately. But there's a lot of information that can be read up on be, do, and have, do, and be, all that stuff. So the quote that my dad gave numerous times is, it's more of a question, kind of a rhetorical one, but who do you have to be in the next stage of life in order to do what you've never done before, in order to attain and achieve and have what you've never had before?
That's a powerful quote. That's a powerful quote, because creating from the future, what we're talking about, creating from the future rather than repeating the blueprint from the past, means we have to have a vision of where we want to go, and then we have to ask, well, who the heck do I have to be that I've never been, and what do I have to do that I've never done? That's why I say find someone that's doing it and imitate them. If you don't know, copy. But those 3 overlapping rings, they're like the 3 golden handcuffs that will bind you into the patterns you live. Or if you master them, you can create entirely new patterns of being and doing. And you never worry about having, because having is the outcome of what you do. So explain those 3, Carl, so we can figure out what's the triad that shapes our pattern of behavior.
Okay. Have any of you in this room ever heard of NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming? Okay, good. I'm sorry. I'll pray for you. But no, the idea behind Neuro-Linguistic Programming is that if you are aware of what your self-talk is, what gets your focus, and the physiology that actually correlates with your focus and with your self-talk, then you can completely rewire your own system, and you can rearrange the way that your thoughts are to actually better serve you. So, for instance, when it comes to focus and physiology, if you were to pass by a higher rank officer than you in the Army, and you gave him some laissez-faire salute, odds are you'd probably get chewed out really hard. Now, at the same time, when it comes to physiology, how many of you know that there's a difference between hoo-ah and hoo-ah? Right? There's a difference there. Sorry for blowing out the speakers. My bad. Got convicted. But within that idea of those overlap, if you can control your self-talk, if you can control what gets your focus, and you can control the physiology that you have in response to the focus and the self-talk, then you are ages ahead of where you could possibly be right now. Right? I mean, does that mean anything to anybody here? Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you again for clapping at me. So something that's really been helpful for me personally is the idea of an I am statement. And what that to me is it's choosing what to focus on that I already know is an affirmation of who I am. And Jim Rohn said that an affirmation has to be two things. It has to be true, and it can never replace an action. So if I was to say I'm organized, which is something I really want to be and something I'm striving for and something it's an area of growth, we'll say that, then in order for me to affirm that I am organized, I have to actually say what's true. So in certain areas, I am very organized. When it comes to my music, when it comes to my band, and even then, I still lack follow-through on a lot of things, but when it comes to those things, it's true for me to say I am organized. Now, in the next stage of life for me, I need to be far more organized. So the way that I would phrase that is I am not just organized, but I am walking in accordance with my destiny, which is somebody who is the head of an organization, who is somebody who is organized, somebody who has all of the traits of the president of a record label, all of those things. So the terminology is important, but what's more important is making sure that you're saying and stating true facts, and that you're never replacing the action with an affirmation. Cool? Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Now, when it comes to the physiology, you really don't want to have a defeatist mindset and, shriveled over, kind of hunched over, not really looking too good and being like, I am empowered. I don't believe that, You can lie to yourself if you want to, but the reflection in the mirror is going to say a very different story. So when it comes to the I am statement, definitely have more or less 2 to 3 things, adjectives that correlate and correspond with your personal values, and use those to affirm who you are. Say it in the mirror to yourself. So we actually have a slide here with a couple of different words. And is it cool if we start the activity?
Yeah, let me just sweep up right behind you here, make sure that you all grab the context, 'cause there's a lot of information went there, and I know even when I'm going, let me see, I know if I'm trying to catch up with it, then I want to slow down for the rest of you too. What he said was, if you want to have what you've never had, you don't start with that. Most people go to, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And they want to find out where to go to get the 5 steps. But then when they try to do it, it doesn't work. Because the way that God does it is he starts from the core of who you are. So a lot of I am statements. I am the good shepherd. I am the door. I am the resurrection. I am the life. I am the bread of heaven. Notice the I am statements Jesus made. You know what he was doing? He was affirming who he was so that other people could have access to what he was anointed to do. So the clearer you are on your I am, the more you release the authority of the anointing so that people can have access to it. So what Carl said was, if you're going to have what you never had, you'll have to be someone you've never been. So now, this is really important. Make this 3-dimensional, like that. To do this properly, the truth of the matter is that you're going to have to look at your state. Your state of being is going to have a big effect on what you do. So you could put on a happy face, and you'll be around people all the time. You have to do it yourself sometimes. But where you just kind of like try to be. But have you ever been with somebody that's like a service industry, the hostess or the waitress or the whatever, who really doesn't want to be there, but is acting in a scripted, smiling way? And it's almost like so artificial, you'd rather they just,
I'd rather
do
they look
that,
miserable
right?
personally.
So
Be
what Carl's
authentic about
saying is, to have what you never had, you got to be who you haven't been. Now here's where it gets tricky. Well, I'm into honesty and authenticity, and so I just tell it like it is, and I just really believe in letting people know the truth and loving them, being sincere. Wrong. Because you have to show up in the role that God gave you the way he wants you to show up, whether you feel like it or not. So you have a responsibility to put on Christ. That means you put on leadership when you're tired and when you're the most selfish. You have to put on generosity because that's what a leader does. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, would you let me know? Just click like over here. And if you want to be notified about future broadcasts, then just click subscribe.